Hi everyone, and welcome back to Curly and Yarny. Today's video is the fourth and final video of my weaving series, in which I will be weaving the fourth and final scarf, and I will also be revealing the 4 scarves that we wove so far in the series. So let's get to it. If you missed any of the 3 first parts of this weaving series, don't worry, I will put all the links to those videos in the description down below. In my last video, I asked for your help, so I couldn't decide what I wanted to do for this fourth and final scarf. So I presented to you 2 different options, and it is option 1 that got the most votes. So it had 67% of the vote. So I want to thank everyone who took the time to vote and help me decide on what to do for this next scarf. If ever you voted for option 2, which was the mixed twill cotton, don't worry, I'm pretty sure that I will be trying this draft pattern in another video later on on another project, so just stay tuned and probably you will be able to see this how it turns out once this draft is being woven. Just a reminder that option 1 was to weave the bamboo flowers. So to weave this, I'm going to use for the weft some bamboo yarn. So 8-2 bamboo, and the color is coquille, so eggshell. And for the draft pattern, I will be doing the draft that can be found on page 35 of Anne Dixon book, The Hand Weaver's Pattern Directory, and the pattern can be found on the bottom of the page, and it's a pattern that reminds me a little bit of flowers. So, before starting weaving, I just wanted to take a few minutes to show you the draft pattern, and also explain to you how I have prepared my loom to weave this draft and how to read it basically. So we are doing the draft that is right here. So there's 3 different elements in the draft. So first we have here the threading, we have here the tie-up, and here we have the threading, so how we're gonna weave it. So first of all, for this part, so the threading, so this is how I have put the threads into my heddles. So each line represents 1 shaft. We see them as we look at the loom. So the one that is the closest to us would be shaft number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is a simple, very simple threading. So I put 1 thread in the 4th shaft, 1 in the 3rd, 1 in the 2nd, 1 in the 1st, and I repeated this all over, all the way through. Now let's see how this translates to the loom. So the threading part was done when I was originally warping the loom. So here we can see me taking 1 heddle out of each shaft, and now I am putting 1 thread in each of these heddles. So I'm following the same order, so I'm putting 1 thread into the heddle of the 4th shaft, 1 into the heddle of the 3rd. Now I'm putting 1 thread into the heddle of the 2nd shaft, and finally 1 thread into the heddle of the 1st shaft. So now let's look a little bit closely at the tie-up draft. So on the tie-up draft, it indicates to us on which shaft we need to attach the threadles that can be found at the bottom of the loom. So the way it is pictured here, it is a little bit similar than the way the threading is pictured. So this means that each row represents 1 of the shaft. So the same way as in the threading, the first row would be the 1st shaft, the 2nd row the 2nd shaft, the 3rd and the 4th, and just like that. Then the columns, they will represent each threadle. So here there's 4 columns, so we need 4 threadles to do this tie-up. I like to count my threadles from left to right. So the first column would be the 1st threadle, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. The way the tie-up is indicated is with the help of the little black square. So if we take, for example, the 1st column, we see that there's 2 little black squares here. So this means that for the 1st threadle, we need to attach it to the 1st and the 2nd shaft. So when we will push on the threadle, the 1st and the 2nd shaft would be lifted. Then here, if we look at the 2nd threadle, we need to attach it to the 2nd and the 3rd shaft. So here again, it means that when we will push on this threadle, the 2nd and the 3rd shaft will be shifted, and so on. So the third treadle, we need to attach it to the third and the fourth shaft, and the last treadle, the fourth one, would need to be attached to the first and the fourth shaft. So let's see how this translates on the loom. Now, welcome to the bottom of my loom. So here are my 4 treadles, and there are cords connecting them to the shafts. And let me show you from a better angle. So from underneath, we can see that the treadles are attached to the shafts there. So the first treadle to the left is attached to the shaft number 1 and 2, and then the second treadle attached to the shaft 2 and 3, and so on. The way the book is made, those 3 patterns have the same threading, the same tie-up, but they are being woven differently. So now let's see what we're gonna have to do with our treadles to weave those little flowers. So I'm gonna take a piece of paper to write down what I will need to be doing when I weave. Here it tells me what I need to, on which treadle I need to push. The way those diagrams are read, they usually they're read the way that they are woven. So when we weave, we usually we always go from the bottom, and then we weave picks, and this just piles up, so the weft just goes up and up. So this will be the first treadle that we're going to push. So here it's telling me that I need to push this treadle, and I can see it's in the first column, so that will be treadle number 1. So 1. Then the next one, so if I go 1 row over, is in the second column, so that will be treadle number 2. And then if I go 1 row over, the next pick will be with treadle number 1 again, so I'm back into the first column. Then one row higher, so it's telling me that I need to do this pick while lifting the third treadle, so that will be 3. Then this one, it's telling me in the fourth, so 4, and the final pick will be in the third again, so 3. And the little arrows is telling me that once I reach this point, I need to go back down here and start all over again. So that's a pretty easy treadling to do. So without further ado, we'll just start this. So now the loom is all prepared to start weaving. I have put my treadling right here so that I make sure to follow it properly. Also, I have advanced the warp long enough so that I can start the weaving. I decided to do a little border of plain weave before the weaving of the draft pattern. So I will for about 1 inch of plain weave, and I make sure to take good note of that, so that when I will get to the end of the scarf, I will be able to do the same thing that I did in the beginning. So now we can see the bamboo flowers starting to form as I weave my first few picks of the sequence. So welcome back. So as you might notice, I am yet again in a new location. This is because this week I am babysitting the cutest little cat. So this is why I am here, but don't get used to it because I'm gonna change location again very soon. So now back to the project. So now all the scarves are off the loom. So the first scarf has been off the loom for a while now. So I have time to twist the fringes on one side, and here on this side I'm about to finish them. And now the other scarf. So here I have the day scarf, I have the night scarf, and the last one, the flower bamboo scarf. So now they are all of 3 of them. They're very fresh off the loom, so they're still attached. So I'm about to start doing the final touches. So first I'm gonna cut the fringes so that they're not connected together anymore. And for some of them I will twist the fringes, some of them I will not twist the fringes. And I will be back to you when this is all done. And also I will be wet finishing them. Just know that I have a video coming up also very soon about wet finishing my weaving project, so stay tuned for that. So let's just get to it now. Hi everyone and welcome back. So as you can see, I'm again somewhere else. So in the past few weeks we have moved in, well, in the past few days actually, we moved into our new apartment. So enough with the temporary homes. Now we have our place. We have settled in and we're pretty much settled, so there really isn't much more unpacking to do. Everything is pretty much in place. All that we have left is to put a bit of decorations on the wall, but other than that we're very well here in this apartment. During the last few days or the last 2 weeks, I naively thought I would be able to put a lot of work into my videos, but it was just so much work planning the move and doing some of the packing and unpacking that I couldn't get anything done. So now the move is all done, we are settled, and we are super tired, we are exhausted, but we're also very happy to be here, and mostly we are very grateful to all the friends and family that helped us host us for the past few months and also helped us with the move, so thank you again. So now back to weaving. So the weaving series is done, so the loom is empty. I have wet finish and then the final touches to all of the scarves, so let's just look at them one by one. So here we can start with the first scarf of the series. So for this scarf, I kept it very simple. So I did a plaid effect, and in which I replicate the warp into the weft. So for the warp I use 100% tencel, and in the weft I use the exact same yarn to do this plaid effect. I also did a very simple 2/2 twill, so it's a very simple design, but it just works. I really love how it turned out. All of the yarn used for this scarf are available through the Woolworths website, so I will link them all in the description down below. Also for the scarf I twisted the fringes. And now we have scarf number 2, which was the day scarf. So for me it was the day scarf because of the little zigzag in the design and also the color chosen, who brought a lot of light to the warp pattern, especially if we compare to this one. So for this one again is the same tencel warp, but I used some merino. It was a mix of merino and tencel yarn for the weft, and the yarn was a bit thicker than all the other yarns I used. So of all the scarf, this is the one that is the thickest, if you like, or a bit stiffer. It's a little bit less drape in the scarf, but this is a good compromise because it is a very warm scarf. You can feel it when you touch it that it's gonna keep somebody very warm in the winter. I also love all the yarn kind of fluffed a little bit through the weft finishing. So again, another very cool scarf. And here we have the opposite of the day scarf. We have the night scarf. So this one was woven with some alpaca silk yarn for the weft, and it is the one that had the most complicated weft treadling pattern. So it was in total 30 picks to do this pattern, and I added a few stripes to give a little bit the impression of the stars in the sky. So I also very like this scarf. This we can really see the opposite of the day and night, but at night we still got a little bit of lightness. This scarf has a very nice drape, and since it is alpaca in the weft, it is warm. It feels very warm as well. I think this is one of the best examples of how the same warp can give two very different patterns and can give two very different effects. Here we have our final scarf, so the fourth and final. So this one is basically your scarf because you voted for the pattern and the yarn. So this is the scarf I like to call the bamboo flowers. So I like how it turned out. I really do feel the flowers in it. And I also like that we used bamboo for this one because the bamboo yarn was acts very differently than the other yarns we used. So of all the yarns is the one that shrank the most. So after wet finishing, all of the other scarves had a bit more than about 42 centimeters of width. So they all varied a little bit around that, but that was pretty much the average. And this one shrank the most at under 40 centimeters. I think the final width was 39 centimeters. So that's a yarn that shrinks a lot, but it doesn't matter because I still like it. It's also the yarn that gave the most drape into the scarf, and it's also very soft. It also, this bamboo yarn also has a shiny finish, which is a bit similar to the shiny finish that I also had with the tinsel, but the colors are so different that it does look different. Also for this scarf, I couldn't weave it as long as I wanted to, so at the end I had to cut it short because I didn't have enough warp left. So I wanted to weave it for at least 65 to 70 inches. I ended up weaving it for 55 inches, so it is overall the shortest scarf, but it doesn't matter. I feel like this makes a very nice statement scarf to wear inside and wear it a little bit like that. And also for this one, I braided the fringes, which is something I've never really done, and I don't know why, because it looks very pretty. So this is it for today's video, and this is also it for this amazing weaving series. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and now I'm off to planning my next weaving series on this loom, so I need to get to it now. Bye bye.